Thanks, guys. So Dr. Mike and Hannah are, just to let you know, are our lead speakers. The rest of the humans who will be speaking will be much briefer in their presentations. And what the next gentleman is going to talk about is compliance, which is super boring and nobody wants to hear about it, but it's really important in this industry. Compliance, regulations, certifications are key to commercial success. So Kieran Tracey is head of RQC Consulting. He's the president, founder of it. He's been working in the pharmacy industry over 25 years in software as well as certifying facilities. He's been in the medical cannabis space in Canada for the last 3 years. His company that he previously worked for was the first company to do validation, and he's been involved in 7 out of 10 facilities in Canada, including the first certification of an organic medical production facility, the Green Organic Dutchman, and he was also responsible for, well, he'll tell you, but getting the first legal shipment of medical cannabis out of Jamaica. He's worked with governments in terms of crafting regulations. He's a friend of mine, even though he cheers for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Kieran Tracey, please welcome to the people of Guernsey, wherever you are in the ether. There he is. Hi, Kieran.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Welcome to Guernsey.
It's weird to be coming on virtually. I usually like to attend these types of conferences in person, but you know, the times are changing, and so it's just very good to be able to meet with everybody nonetheless. And I hope that you're enjoying your pale ale, your lagers, or your ambers that are available there. So the first question that I asked myself coming into the industry years ago was, how do I become a licensed producer and exporter of cannabis? I wanted to get into the industry myself. I started to look at the regulations, legislation, etc., and determined that I was actually better positioned in a consulting capacity than I was in actually being a CEO like poor Greg here. And setting up a facility, but actually helping people getting through the guidelines and understanding the healthcare component. My background was in the Canadian Medical Association, where I supported the Physicians of Canada, specifically in the province of Ontario, for several years. And then I worked with TELUS Health, putting in electronic medical records. And after that, worked in a health research company where I was de-identifying data for health research purposes. And in fact, I helped set up some of the first real-world evidence departments in the global pharmaceutical companies, and also helped the European Medicines Agency with the clinical study reports and the individual patient data that now is required to be anonymized before it's brought in for a drug to be considered for use into the EMA. So I'm deeply entrenched in that area of the world, as well as into the health science. But also in the pharma side of things and helping companies get established. I'm just going to see if I can get this in clicking. Okay, so topics today, very quickly, the background of RQC. James has already done an excellent job, but that's, I won't spend much time on that. Then I'm going to go into the various guidelines and requirements that you need to follow in order to be a pharmaceutical company creating a medicinal flower product and being able to then package it and export it into other markets. So I will go over GACP and GMP, which are acronyms that I'll get into. And then I'm gonna also just give you a brief overview of 4C Labs accreditation plan, what we put together, what we've been working on now for the last year or so, and moving all the points forward and meeting all the milestones in order to get this facility set up and putting out very good quality product out into the UK market. And then I'll open it up for any questions if anybody has any. So yes, we just started very recently. I'm involved in North America, Latin America, Caribbean, the Middle East, specifically in Israel, and the European Union. My co-founder, Sonia, she's one of the best experts in the land, and she has deep experience pharmaceutical, medical device, natural health products, and cannabis. Past clients, as James explained, I've worked with the country of Jamaica and actually helped 3 of the companies there, as well as TGOD, which is the world's leading organic producer. We helped them from when they were just paperwork and actually getting up a 500,000 square foot facility, not too far from where I live, as well as a niche producer for organics as well, a PhD-led company out west who actually came up with a certified organic standard. So a lot of rich experience there. We can definitely get the facility up and running in Guernsey. and meeting all of the international requirements. We're very confident in that. So the key point here, if you are going to set up a facility, is that the legalization of cannabis for medicinal purposes allows producers to supply chemists, physicians, and patients with the newly approved drug, as long as they are in accordance with good manufacturing and distribution practices. And so that's what we're going to go into today, is the good manufacturing practices and what you need to follow in order to get your product onto the shelves of chemists and into the hands of patients. Okay, so the purpose of GXP is a collection of quality guidelines and regulations created to ensure that pharmaceutical products are safe, meet their intended use, and specifically to the monograph. And that is what Dr. Barnes was making reference to earlier. Physicians don't prescribe unless there's evidence, and evidence informs monographs, and monographs is what everyone follows. And so there are monographs for cannabis, and therefore for both dried flower as well as oils, and therefore we can get these products into the hands of physicians and patients. And we have to make sure that they adhere to the quality processes during manufacturing, storage, and distribution. The two concepts, GMP is good manufacturing practices, so that's actually what's happening within the facility, and GACP is good agricultural collection practices. That's what's happening in the field, that for your workers who are growing the product and harvesting the product, and making sure that it's always safe for human consumption, that it performs according to the guidelines. So GACP basically is hygienic production and careful handling of the medicinal plants. I won't go into any further detail there. And the EU GMP guidelines include the quality management system, which we are currently standing up with 4C Labs, training of personnel, which we've also begun doing. We're also qualifying the premises and making sure that the facility meets the global standards. And we're also about to begin qualifying the equipment and the software that's going to be used in the environment to ensure that everything meets the standards and that there's good data integrity around the documentation and record keeping within the organization. And then we're also going to be validating everything that's being used. So any weights or measures, we're making sure that it's meeting all of those requirements as well, and that they're to standard, because at the end of the day, an inspector does come in from the region that you're selling your product into, who will come and check the facility to make sure that everything is above board, and that they will do that on a very consistent basis. Here in Canada, for example, it's every 6 months. We'll also do a stability program to understand the shelf life of the product. And we'll also train on batch release and audits, and we'll also set up the complaints and product recall system. So basically, at the end of the day, you can see this on your big screen there. This is actually a single joint, a White Widow. It has all of the various THC content and CBD content there. It also explains the stability, as I just went over that with you, and all of the other fine points, the lot number, et cetera, that you need for tracking. So all of these things that we're putting in according to the GMP guidelines is really showing up on the packaging, and you can actually see it on store shelves. Now, with regards to 4C Labs specifically, we are just in the midst of into phase 1B, and we are setting up the quality management system. We have looked at facility design drawings. We understand what kind of equipment and what kind of software is going to be needed to be used, and we are starting to validate those things. Then getting into phase 2, we will be training all the staff on standard operating procedures. We'll be providing more GMP training. We'll be setting up environmental monitoring systems to make sure the product is always being well kept. We'll do cleaning verifications, etc. And then moving into phase 3, when we're getting very close to getting certification and being able to export internationally, we'll do a pre-inspection with all the staff internally. We'll do all of our findings. We'll all work towards getting all of those things adjusted and perfectly ready for the inspection. And then one of the inspectors, either from the UK or from another market, depending on what the strategy is at that point, we may bring in somebody from Germany, etc. We will host the audit and make sure that we have all of the things set up in order to ensure that we get certification in both the dried flower and the oil extracts. And that is my last slide. I hope that was quick and brief, and that you now are more informed and that you